your dad worked, he was paid, but I think a lot of people who worked in the colonies still weren't well off as such. They didn't have a much of a disposable
Those
income.
with few of children had a little more,
Mm.
you know, but those that had a lot of children, it was a struggle.
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm. So then
we
after
used to get an allowance,
Sorry.
you know that. So
you did,
well, the parents, if they in those days,
yeah.
a lot of people got it, but they wouldn't say so.
Oh, you got an allowance, a family allowance
European grant.
for the family.
Yes.
Oh
If
no,
you
I've
had,
never
but you
heard
had
of
to
it.
prove.
Right.
I remember going to a place called Droog with my mother,
Mm.
to the courts there. This particular place had all the courts. You went into, for some reason, we had to go there. And I went with my mother, and she had to find out about my father, you know, where his European estate.
So you had to prove.
You had to prove
that
it,
you
and
had
they
European.
proved that my father was of Dutch origin.
Right. Right.
And that's how we got an allowance for our family.
Oh, I've never heard of
And,
that before.
I don't know whether it depended upon his salary or what, but that was an allowance we got.
For each child or for the family?
I have no idea, but
Right.
there was...
Oh, okay. Well, that's something for us to
Yes,
research. That
yes,
sounds really
yes,
interesting.
it is.
I've never heard of that before.
Yes, a European grant.
Yeah. Maybe some people were too proud to
Of course.
just say that
They had
they
that,
had that grant.
you know, pride about them. So,
Yeah.
yes, my
And
father...
and how did people get on in the colony? Was there a sort of a hierarchy, depending on
the officers.
the officers?
They
Really?
would not, they come to the same institute as us and everything, but there was that division.
Yeah.
Yes. But most people got on.
Got on pretty
because
well.
we were all, you know, tarred with the same brush, you
Yeah,
know, being paid by
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah.
for the same jobs and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So, how did you meet your husband then? So you were a nurse.
Yes,
You were working
when
hard.
I finished my nursing, my general nursing, and when I did my 1-year service, I came home, and that's when I met my husband.
So what was he doing at that time when you
He
met
was
him?
on the railways.
Right.
He's a driver on railways, and yes, we met.
How did young people meet back then? What was the...
Well, in my husband's case, he was a cousin, so he came over to visit my grandmother,
Right.
who was there in Kharkov then,
Yeah.
and that's when I met him.
That's when your eyes
Yes,
met.
his first wife died,
Oh, so he was a
and
widow.
they had a little baby.
Oh, that's nice.
And-
A nice story.
Yes, so I had to get dispensation to marry him because he was a relative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But love conquered all.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Every hurdle was
Yeah.
leapt over. And,
Yeah.
oh, that's a nice story.
Meet at the institute and
Yeah.
have a drink in
Yeah.
the evening, watch the bowls and the tennis. And,
Yeah. Sounds lovely.
yeah,
Sounds
you had
very
a lovely
relaxed.
railway garden there.
Yeah.
Sneak off to the garden. Yes, yes.
Oh,
Singing,
that's nice.
I used to sing.
Oh, I used to sing.
Yeah.
Really? At the institute?
Yes.
Oh, what was...
And Jabalpur, where I did my nurse's
Yeah.
training.
Oh.
They mostly know me, yes.
So what
Well,
was your
not
signature tune that you'd sing?
Mona Lisa.
Oh, Mona Lisa, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, quite a few Anglo-Indians can get up and perform quite well, can't they?
Yes, yes. I'm amazed really that I did it.
Yeah. Well, you must have felt
Dancing,
confident.
singing.
Yeah. So you loved to dance, loved
Oh
to sing.
dear, loved.
What was your favourite
To
dance?
get all the partners because I was a good dancer
Oh,
and a singer
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you would jive?
Oh goodness, like mad, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, when I was growing up, when I was young, I can remember going to Anglo-Indian functions and seeing Mum and Dad and
Yeah.
everyone up on the floor
Yes,
having a great time.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Usually till about halfway through, and then there'd be a punch-up somewhere. A typical,
yeah.
I remember as a kid sitting under a table and just watching
Yes,
all these guys'
that would
legs.
eventuate really in Dongaga, we'd have all these good-looking men and all that, were coming for the dances, and eventually, imbibe far too much jealousy and
all that sort of stuff.
you're looking at this girl and that girl and a punch up here.
So then, when did you get married? What year?
I got married in 1954. 54.
54.
Yeah.
And that was a big affair?
No.
Family affair?
No, because my husband was married previously.
Oh, I see.
So we had a small affair.
And that was
my father had already had some other, my sister who was the first to marry.
Right. Yeah.
They had a very big wedding, and I thought, no, I can't do this to my dad.
Yeah, must have cost a fortune.
Absolutely. So I said no. We had a shamiana put up in the house, and a small wedding.
What was it called? A
Shamiana.
Shamiana.
Yes. Or
like
what,
a tent?
What are they? A marquee.
A marquee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice name, Shamiana.
Yes.
I've not heard that before.
Yes.
Oh, must have been fantastic. You were there to celebrate something.
Yes. Yes.
So then, when you were married, did you have then your own place? Could you move out straight away, or?
Yes, I could move because my father-in-law had a bungalow, and my husband stayed with him because he was a mail driver, so he had a bigger house.
Oh, right, okay.
So my husband, when he married his first wife, they lived with them.
Right.
And they had a little boy. She died of childbirth, actually.
Oh, that's
so.
sad.
When I married him, I had this little 1-year-old child, 2-year-old child, that's right. And yes, so when I married him, I went to stay with my father. But then the father-in-law retired, and I got this poky little house to live in.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that's when I, after the All India strike, and they were not, and also after independence, the railway jobs were a bit shaky.
Yeah. So what was it like, independence? I mean, there must have been this huge build-up, I can imagine. How old were you when independence arrived?
I was about in my 16, 17-year-old, I think.
Did
Just
it have
after the war.
Yeah. Did it have any effect on you?
Not really, apart from all the riots and and also the Muslims and the Hindus fighting with each other. I was there when my uncle was walking with me and to go to the shops in Kharagpur, and I saw this man being chased up the signal and being hacked. And my husband, my uncle, my mother's brother, he just sort of took me away from there.
Oh, okay.
Those were scary times.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And what about, in the colony, was there any sort of security or
not particular?
No soldiers around or protecting the railway?
Yes, they had the railway police. They Defence of India people. They were called upon when they were nice, but you didn't see them patrolling the streets or anything like that. Yeah.
So, independence came, and did anything change after a few years?
Yes, the railway jobs were no longer just for Anglo-Indians.
Okay, all right. Yes. So then, did some of the did Indian families start to move into the?
Oh yes. They were, but they were given preference. Before the Anglo-Indians were given preference.
Right. Okay.
But and then the Indians, rightly so, had independence.
That was the fear, wasn't it?
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes, and that's why you had this mass exodus of Anglo-Indians at that particular time. They all started to leave.
So what about your parents? Did they start to talk about going? Did they discuss it with the family?
Not at all. My father always thought that when he retired and there would be a time he would go to England. But unfortunately he died. But most Anglo-Indians in those days would think of going to England. because that was the first place that took them in anyway.
Right.
And they always thought of it, that if they ever left India, that they would go to England. You know, that was,
So they felt that they would belong.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Because of the association
Yes.
that they had with the
Yes.
British in India,
Yes. Yes.
or
And the connection.
and
you
the
know,
connection, the family.
family connection.
Yeah, which is right.
Lineage.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
lineage would be there for them.
Yes.
So then, when did your mum? I know your dad died very young, unfortunately.
Yes.
So
And my mother followed. We went in '61, I think, and my mother followed in '63 or something. She came up to England.
so your husband and yourself decided to leave India.
Yes.
So why did he decide, your husband, to leave?
Because you know, his job was being threatened.
Right.
And
Okay.
he was one of the lucky ones. He had a fairly decent job. You know. And it was threatened. As a matter of fact, at one stage,
He was
job
demoted.
Demoted. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that would have been terrible.
And it would never. You wouldn't think about it before, but
God.
it did happen to him.
So that was a bit of a turning point?
Yes, it was a turning point for him.
And how did you feel about leaving the family? And
I wanted to go to England.
same thing, you
Yes,
wanted to.
because I wanted it for my family. Yeah. Derek was a bit reluctant, but he always did what I wanted him to do.
That's the rule. That's the rule.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's a sweet fellow.
what about the kids? Did they? How old were you?
Oh, they were young.
They were
Jeffrey was about 7 or 8 or
Oh,
5.
yeah.
Jackie 3. Yeah.
So was it? I mean, you know, when you told other people that you were going
Yeah.
to England.
They were going all around me. They were
Oh, so
going.
everyone was.
Everyone was leaving. That's what it
Every
was.
month
The
there'd be
mass
one.
exodus of Anglo-Indians.
And what did the Indians think of that? Did they make any
well,
comments, or?
We didn't associate as such.
Yeah, so
with
you didn't
them.
really know.
But our servants were, you know,
Devastated, yeah,
Yes,
I can
yes.
imagine.
So I often think of my ayah now and think, oh, I wish you were here with me.
Yeah.
Loyal servants, and
Amazing.
we treat them sometimes so badly, you know.
Yeah.
And I tried to do my best because I was a nurse. I used to chase them around, giving them their injections. Yeah. You're not coming into my house. I used to go off to the chemist and give them the injections.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
They respected me for it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's